Are we missing anybody?
I guess that makes it.
Alrighty, roll call, please.
Chair Lorraine,
Here.
Vice Chair Peterson,
Here.
Board Member Bowles, Board Member Bromfield, Board Member Strom,
Here.
Board Member Vogel.
Here.
Thank you very much. If we will all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, wonderful. Comments from the public on non-agenda related items?
We have done, but if we could get an approval for the minutes.
Oh, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. All right, would anybody like to approve the minutes from our meeting on 2/6/2025?
Move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, fantastic. All right, public comment, we have none on non-agenda items, right? All right, fantastic. Comments from the board members on non-agenda items?
I had one comment
Yes,
that I was
ma'am.
going to make really quick. I know that in the past, like when this first came up, before it got postponed, we'd gotten emails and stuff about it from the public. And then I know on other items, we've gotten emails from the public, but like on the ZIP, when that came forward, we did not get those emails. So I guess I'd like a consistent policy on always seeing what the public is saying, whether they're asking for the, like, I don't know if we only get them if the LPA is specifically addressed, and on those items they were addressed, or I'm not really sure how it works, but it felt like at the ZIP last time that maybe there were emails that we didn't know about. I don't know if that's,
It's a very valid point.
so.
We will make, we will make.
Jody, do you have a recommendation? Are there a lot of notes that you get that we don't get?
Not typically. The zip was a little bit different, so I do apologize.
Okay, because I know when we had the Costco, when I was here, we got all those emails. So in the future, if we have something like that, we very much want to receive them. I completely agree. Okay, thank you very much. All right, before we start this, I want to state that the people that are about to present, they did present to me ahead of time in the conference room here. Does anybody else have that happen too?
Yes.
I did at my office. The applicant.
I have to apologize. I did get an email request from someone, and I did not respond. I intended to, but I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I met with the applicant, I met with staff, and I met with Mr. Carmody and, talked to members of the public, so.
Okay, fantastic. Sir, did you meet with anyone? Okay, fantastic. All right, action item number 2, Eden Mar Stewart Small Scale Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map Amendment. Legislative RC, ordinance number 2535-2025. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida for a small-scale comprehensive plan future land use map amendment as defined in FS 163.3187, amending the comprehensive plan future land use map for an approximate 22.76 acre parcel from commercial to the neighborhood special district future land use designation, amending the future land use map, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes. Okay.
Okay. Good evening, board members. For the record, my name is Jody Kugler. I'm the Development Director for the City of Stuart. Tonight, I'll be presenting agenda item number 2, submitted by HJA Design Studios, LLC, and MacArthur Summers, PA, on behalf of the property owner, Mar Stewart Retail Number 2, LLC. The small-scale comprehensive plan future land use map amendment is a legislative agenda item. The small-scale comprehensive plan future land use and map amendment petition was properly noticed before the local planning agency meeting held on January 16, 2025. Pursuant to the public notice requirements outlined under Section 11.02.05 of the City of Stuart Land Development Code, and the local planning agency voted to continue the agenda item to tonight's public hearing. The initial public notice packet is attached to the agenda item for your reference. The 22.76 acre subject parcel is on the west side of Southeast Federal Highway, just south of Lowe's Home Improvement, and approximately 1,200 feet north of the intersection of Southeast Pomeroy and Southeast Federal Highway. The vacant parcel was previously approved as the Marketplace of Stuart CPUD, which is granted by the City Commission in 2012 via ordinance number 2244-2013. However, 2012, not 2013. However, these development approvals expired between December 2018 and June 2019. The subject parcel and properties to the north and south are zoned commercial planned unit development. The properties on the east side of Southeast Federal Highway are zoned commercial planned unit development, business general, and residential planned unit development. The properties to the west of the subject parcel are within the unincorporated Martin County and is designated by the county's residential planned unit development zoning district. The subject parcel and properties to the north, south, and east are designated by the City of Stuart Comprehensive Commercial Future Land Use. The properties to the west are within unincorporated Martin County and designated by the county's commercial office, residential, and low-density future land use. This map depicts the 35 acres of Eden Mar Stewart CPUD outlined in yellow, with the 22.76 acres designated by the Neighborhood Special District Future Land Use and 12.31 acres under the Commercial Future Land Use designation. The Neighborhood's Special Future Land Use classification is established by the Canner CPUD, also known as the Costco CPUD, located on the east side of South Canner Highway and the Avalon Plan Development, adjacent to Green River Parkway and Baker Road and State Road 707. According to the City of Stuart Future Land Use Element Number 1, the future land use designation is predominantly associated with the sale, rental, and distribution of products, or the performance of professional and non-professional services, including retail sales, service establishments, business and professional offices, shopping centers, financial institutions, restaurants, entertainment, temporary lodging, and a limited amount of multifamily, residential, and indoor industrial uses. Mixed-use projects, public facilities, and electric distribution substations are also permitted. The small-scale comprehensive plan land use map amendment requests a change to the underlying commercial future land use for the 22.76 acre parcel to neighborhood special district, allowing a maximum residential density of no more than 10.9 dwelling units per acre for the overall 35.07 acre Eden Mar Stewart CPD, as approved via ordinance by the City Commission. Sorry. Hold on. Sorry, let me just get back to my notes. Apologize. The Neighborhood Special District is a mixed future land use category, allowing residential, commercial, and recreation land uses that seek to achieve a functional vertical or horizontal mix of uses, includes a mix of residential and commercial or office. The uses may be mixed within a single building or a single site, provided that impacts from different uses are mitigated through the urban design techniques. Public facilities and electric distribution substations are also permitted. The requested future land use map amendment from commercial to neighborhood special district would provide an increase in the floor area ratio as well as the increase in the maximum allowable density and intensity for residential and non-residential development. According to the Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Policy 1.87.2, residential densities, development intensities, and appropriation use amounts are outlined for each future land use category in a table of land use densities and intensities. I think it's important to mention that the density, intensity, and floor area ratio thresholds vary based on whether or not the site is within the city's community redevelopment area. This site is not located within the city's CRA. This table has been condensed for discussion purposes. No. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Thank you. Oh. Okay. According to the comprehensive plan, I apologize, let me just back up. Lost my place. When located outside the CRA, the commercial land use provides up to 10 dwelling units per acre with a maximum floor area of 1.5 and requires between 85 and 100% of the site to be utilized for non-residential intensities and up to 15% of the site for residential intensities. Whereas neighborhood special districts allow up to 15 dwelling units per acre and a maximum floor area ratio of 2, requiring between 10 and 70% of the site to be utilized for non-residential intensities and between 30 to 90% for residential intensity. According to the comprehensive plan policies provided under Objective 1F1, the development standards for the neighborhood special district land use requires that not less than 30% of the site's land area shall consist of residential uses and not less than 10% of the site shall consist of non-residential. And non-residential land uses, any intensity or intensity and densities approved under the neighborhood special district future land use require subsequential evaluation from staff and approval by the city commission to amend the density intensities previously approved under the planned unit development. These comparison tables break down the maximum build-out potential for residential densities and intensities within the commercial and neighborhood special future land use designation for the 22.76 acre subject site parcel. These next tables provide a breakdown for the maximum build-out for potential for non-residential intensities within the commercial and neighborhood special district designation for the 22.76 acre parcel. This also shows the breakdown on the proposed intensity and floor area ratio analysis. For the non-residential, for the 22.76 acres, the land mass was measured at 12.73 acres, and then the residential was at 10.3 acres. And the total is the 22.76. They are proposing to have 249 units at 100% intensity and 991,594 square feet of commercial. The site is within Martin County's urban service boundary, and existing infrastructure is currently available for this development through the county. As a condition of the major CPUD amendment, the applicant will be required to have all the utility plans reviewed and approved by Martin County Utilities before submitting permits within the City of Stuart Building Department. The applicant also provided a pre-application letter from the from the Florida Department of Transportation conceptually approving the development proposal. However, the pre-application expired on September 20th, 2024, and the applicant will be required to submit an updated pre-application letter from FDOT before submitting a site permit of building permits within the City of Stuart. All improvements proposed within the Southeast Federal Highway right-of-way will be required permitting with Florida Department of Transportation. The applicant also submitted a capacity analysis with the Martin County School District, which is utilized by the school board to determine if there's proposed development complies with the review policies outlined under the interlocal agreement between Martin County, the City of Stuart, and the school board for future facilities sitting. The school board capacity analysis indicates that the elementary, middle, and high school enrollment is projected to meet the concurrency level of service capacity. The future land use amendment also has been reviewed and received approval from the City of Stuart Building, Public Works, Planning, and Fire Department, as well as the city's traffic, environmental, and engineering consultants at Kimley Horn and Associates. The City of Stuart's traffic consultant, Kimley Horn and Associates, has reviewed the submitted future land use amendment traffic analysis submitted by the applicant and determined that the total net new trip generation potential for the proposed development is 2,382 daily trips with, at peak time, 205 at AM peak time hours and 204 PM peak hour trips. Additionally, the site is proposed within the construction of a new west leg at the lane at the existing Southeast Miami Avenue and Southeast Federal Highway. Directional medians opening shared access via the existing Maserati Stewart right-of-way driveway and shared access driveway with the Lowe's Improvement CPUD to the north of the site. Based on the expected project impact, the existing transportation infrastructure internal to the site should be significant to accommodate the proposed development. The analysis determined a net reduction in trips resulting from the proposed future land use amendment, Kimley Horn and Associates, and determined that a traffic analysis to the roadway segments was not necessary since the proposed land use amendment resulted in a decrease in the trips generated. The City of Stuart Development Department has reviewed the requested small-scale comprehensive plan amendment following the standards of review outlined in under Land Development Code Section 11.01.09 and found the petition to be consistent with the City of Stuart Comprehensive Plan goals, objectives, and policies, and meet the definition of a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment as defined by Florida Statute 163.3187. The Development Department requests guidance and recommendations from the local planning agency to forward to the City Commission for a final determination of ordinance number 2535-2025. This concludes staff presentations for the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment. The applicant is requesting to present their presentation for the land use and also the rezoning of the amendment for the next, if that's the will of the board.
Okay, I have a question, because we've gotten in trouble in the past when this has been presented concurrently. Can this be done now?
For the record, City Attorney Lee Baggett. Yes, Florida statute, section 163.3184, subsection 12, at the request of the applicant, when they have a concurrent zoning and future land use map under the comp plan amendment, they can be done concurrently together at the request of the applicant, is what the statute says.
They cannot, right?
They can,
They can,
At-
okay,
at the request of the applicant.
okay, all right.
So it's not your request, it's their request.
And then will the comments of the public and the comments of the board be based on both, or will we handle them one at a time once we're?
I think that if you're going to do it together, you would probably have presentations for both, because I think staff and the applicant might have multiple presentations, but the applicant now, knowing that you will allow them to go together, he might do together. I don't know how. We need to hear from the applicant if they want to do it together or they want to keep it separate. So,
We prefer to make the presentation together, but how the board wants to handle it from there, you guys.
Are you all okay with hearing it concurrently?
Yes.
Okay. Before we proceed, we have a number of items that were here for us. Please explain what they are, since we just received them and would have not had time to review them.
Okay, so we received a letter hand-delivered to the clerk's office today from Jack A. McDonald and Antoinette McDonald. This is just a letter outlining their, that they're not in favor of the project.
Okay?
We also received a letter from, I do believe, Jack Harmony, who represents the Willoughby. He provided a newspaper article that was done in TC Palm back when the original approval was done in 2012. and also the ordinance that was done in 2009. So it describes both ordinances. I do believe you did receive something else. I don't have a copy of that.
It is a bio?
Yes, I'm sorry, I apologize. That's simply my bio.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. And then I don't know if we proceed with this now or later, but just I would like to go on record. Because we now, from my understanding, our last meeting was about the zoning and progress changes. I think that they had some new zoning approved, correct?
This is under the old,
This is under the old. Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that before we proceed.
and Chair Lorraine, if I may, you read the first ordinance already, and we proceeded under that.
Okay.
That is a legislative item. The third item, agenda item, is quasi judicial, but we're combining that together, so we'll need to read the third ordinance, the
Okay.
title, just like you did the second one. And then, if you recall, we have a laminated white card in
I
your
was
drawer.
gonna say, do you need me to do that?
Yeah, so since we're doing them together, we'll have to follow the quasi judicial.
This one.
Does that say LPA on it? Quasi judicial?
It says quasi judicial. It doesn't say LPA. Oh, is there more white sheets?
It should be the laminated one.
There's several laminated white sheets in here. Here's this one, LPA.
That's it.
All right, fantastic.
That's just a guide or kind of a cheat sheet to make sure you stay on track.
And then do we, because we did the ex parte, so we would disclose it again, even though we already discussed it?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we
It
do
wasn't
everything the right way.
necessarily on the legislative matter, it wasn't necessary, but on the quasi judicial, it is. So-
Okay, all right, fantastic.
But since you're doing them together, you're going to be legislative and a judge together during the presentation.
Sounds good. Do we need to read the second again or just the third?
You don't need to read the second, it's already been read, but just, we need to read the.
The third item?
third, correct.
All right, fine, then we will do that now. Eden Mars Stewart, major amendment to the commercial plan unit development quasi judicial, ordinance number 2536-2025. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida for a major CPUD amendment to the 12.31 acre Mars Stewart Marketplace Commercial Plan Unit Development CPUD located on the west side of Southeast Federal Highway to incorporate a 22.76 acre parcel within the overall Mars Stewart CPUD for a total land area of 35.07 acres, providing for conditions of approval, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes. With the board members, did the board members have any ex parte communications to disclose? I will disclose that I had a meeting, once again, in the conference room here in the city of Stuart with the gentleman about to present.
I also met with the applicant, I met with Mr. Carmody, and I met with staff and spoke with the public.
And I met with the applicant and the applicant's attorney.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. All those giving testimony, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. Do you do that part?
I can do it over here.
Okay.
Do you affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Do.
You may be seated.
Okay. That qualified as the clerk portion, right? I just want to make sure. Yes, okay. City Development Director, please present your testimony, including any evidence and your recommendation regarding this case.
Chair, if I may, the applicant's going to do a presentation.
Okay, are you okay, going out of order, is that all right for quasi judicial? Yes, that's fine. Okay.
Thank
Please
you, Madam
proceed.
Chair, and thank you, Counselor. First, I want to just compliment.
Please state your name for the record
I'm sorry,
first.
Michael Houston with HCA Design
Thank
Studio. And part of the team. With me tonight here is Mary Morgado and Jay Jacobson, who are our principals. They are going to be talking about this project in a different way than most applications do. Terry McCarthy, our attorney, Jose Martinez, a project manager, Todd Troxel from my office, Steve Marquette, I see Joe Capra walked in, and Juan Ortega, our traffic engineer. First, I want to compliment staff. We've been working at this for 2 years, and it's been a challenging project for a variety of reasons, but part of why staff was so careful in it, and I think Jody described it very well, is that this land use that's in front of you, Neighborhood Special District, is a very unique land use. It's the only mixed-use land use outside of the CRAs in the city. And one of the items that she mentioned is the urban design techniques and the horizontal mix. So part of the reason we appreciate it to be able to put the two together is this land use almost requires you to see how it's going to fit and how does it work. And so we're excited to show you that because I don't think there's a better project in the city that we've ever worked on that brings urban design technique and some of the changes that have taken place to the project. We want to make sure we reserve some time because I know Mr. Carmody will have some comments and to respond to those. But what you'll see is some of the changes that we made directly because of the meeting we had at Willoughby, which was, there's probably a pretty good turnout there. There's some of the folks here tonight, and we feel like we've addressed a lot of their issues. Jay will talk about that in a minute. But before we do the project, if Mario could come up and talk a little bit about who he is.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair and the board. Thank you so much for the honor and the privilege to be able to talk to you this evening. This is not something that I do, but I think this is very important. It's important to our organization. It's important, I think, to this community. So I thought the best way to do it is really come up here and be able to share with you. Because I think there's differences in this project quite than.
Just one second. State your name for the record first.
Sure, I apologize.
That's okay.
Mario Mergado.
Okay, thank you.
Again, it's an honor, and I'd like to be able to share with you my thoughts on this project because I think it's a very unique project and a project that we've worked on for a long time along with the vision. I'd like to tell you today when I go through it a little bit of our history. You have that to change? As I would like to go over the history. I've been in this business for 44 years. I came to this great country. I always feel blessed and grateful coming from Cuba and growing up here without first my parents, and they migrated to Chicago and back to Florida. I've been in this business where I love and I've always had a vision to build. Today, we're in 5 states. We're in Florida, we're in Illinois, we're in Virginia, and we're in California, and we're in New Jersey. Every one of those places, I take our pride. Thank you. I take our pride in the way we do things. Our goal is always to bring excellence to anything we do. We believe we wake up every day, and we have an opportunity to bring excellence or not, and we choose to. So I'd like to show you what 1,857 employees today, over 7,800 family members of our organization, stand for and what we do. Those are my thoughts that I like to share with you, and I can. First of all, we belong to the community. I'm going to stand a little bit so I can take a look every once in a while. We belong to the community. Our business is a very simple business. It's a business that's really almost franchised, that you plot it and you buy and you sell to 2 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles to wherever the other intersecting dealership that might be selling the same brands that you do. So we love the community. We're part of this community, and we have to be. From the very beginning, it's always a mission of our company to be able to be integrated into the community, to give back to this community. And from the very beginning, we started. One of the first things we did is Teacher of the Year. And I remember the concerns that the community had. If you do this 1 year, will you stop after 2 years? I said, listen, I'll commit. How long would you like me to commit? They said 3 years. How about 10 years? Our 10 years came up. We've been doing it for 10 years and continue to do it 10 years. I gave you a taste here of giving you some things from golf and for a charity for Nicholas Children's Hospital. I've worked with Nicholas now for 18 years. I've been the chairman of it twice of the hospital board and the chairman of the system. It means a lot to me to be able to give back to children. It means a lot to me to be able to bring back health to them, and it brings a lot to me, education. I'm a trustee at St. Thomas University, also at Florida International University. I was a past trustee also as well. I believe that through education, we can foster a better future, better opportunities, and better prospect for the opportunity of the children. And as I go through here, we give bicycles because we believe that gangs, one of the things they do is kids can't afford, kids can't have, and they buy a young person into the gang by giving a bicycle. That simple. And then they commit certain crimes, and honestly, as a minority, they don't get into trouble, but we believe that's a great way for us to fight and to do that, and we've done that. We do more things here where you've seen we've raised dollars. We did certain things here on a national scope to give, when Haiti had the earthquake, we were able to get General Motors, we were able to get the Clinton Foundation, we were able to get another foundation to give us and to help us, and we gave 9 trucks away filled with goods to the community to be able to help. So all of our time, we've always been involved. And here, we've done the air show, we sponsored the air show, we do the Teacher of the Year, and we do many other events. Currently, I counted today, 69 events we've done. That's how many over the last 10 years that we've done that are major. Along with that, we do for every other store, different events also that we have on an annual basis. Roughly now, you would add there another 42 events. That gives you the scope a little bit of who we are and what we do inside our community. You can switch. We're a family. As I started out earlier, with 1,858 employees, that's how we treat everything. So the respect that we have for humans, the respect that we have for humanity, the respect that we have for our community is second to none. If the community's not upset at me, then I can't do business. That's really that simple, and we don't make those investments without doing it. Early on, I started with Willoughby, and Willoughby, I answered the things that I needed to do. I addressed the things that we had to do when we first decided to bring Audi and bring Infiniti here to the store. And I shared what they wanted to do. We created a buffer zone for them. We invested, I believe, $350,000 so they can do the berm the way they needed to do it, fence the way they needed to do it, and now we'll invest again to build what we want to do, and we've listened carefully because we want to be a good neighbor. Matter of fact, those neighbors buy from us also as well, so we need to be able to do that. I wanted to give you a scope and picture of our stores, just the quality. And if you walk through our stores, you would see it from a cleanliness to the quality to the care that we have all throughout. It's who we are. It's who we represent. It's my name. If I put my name on it, it's important to me. Next. So this property, to give you some perspective on here, we have listened to everything that we've had to do, and the way we've laid this out, this is the empty space, it's 20 acres that we have. And that 20 acres, when we put the building on next, you'll find that we have the closest home is 430 directly to really, it would be west and south, and then 380 further down from the tip of our, along that, you have trees, you have a creek, and you have the berm that we developed, and the trees that they planted also as well. Next. This proposed site is a site that's really, everything that I've had was a vision that I've had since 2001, when I wanted to bring Infiniti here, when I wanted to bring Audi here, and then later on brought Alfa and Maserati, and to bring in luxury to this community. This community never had it to this level, never had it to this style, and that's what I've tried to do here. I thought about this property because it was close by Lowe's, and I thought, let me see if I can buy it, join it, and continue to develop. We hope to bring in 2 more luxury dealerships here. Those 2 luxury dealerships will add another, I would say to you today, easily 100 to 120 new jobs. Our jobs and our employment, our average is around $72,000. So that's our average that we have. So it's not a low paying, it's not a low income, it's all throughout built like that. Go ahead. As you can see, the finish on all these stores, inside and outside. We've done multiple events inside, outside also as well. Our Audi store, we just finished after 10 years remodeling this store internally, everything. We're about 2 weeks away from finishing our fixed operations side, our service. Go ahead. Our newest was the Alfa and Maserati that we added. Opened that up in 2019. Go ahead. And then this site, if you can take a look at the building, and Jay will speak more about this, but the buildings originally, we had them turned the opposite. So we heard the community, and to be further away, we moved them around and flipped them. We flipped the lake so it's on that side. We flipped the space on that side. And what I wanted to create was a community that's quite different, a community that people can get to their homes, but they can walk. So they can take their dog out, they can walk around, they can do trails. And all along, we created that kind of atmosphere all throughout. Also, they can go to Publix, which they built a brand new Publix there, so they can walk across it there. They want to go Lowe's, of course. And then I also have retail in the front, where I have Starbucks, I have a restaurant, I have another restaurant that we're adding, all in the front. And then it brings in a circle where you have the clubhouse, so it's in the front, and then you have the dealerships that we're building directly to the north there. Go ahead, next. So this would give you a rendering that gives you a look to see how it would look, how it would lay out in the main entrance with a circular. When you do the circular, so you can go into the car dealership side, or you can go continue to the residence. As you continue through, you'll see the clubhouse all throughout. Then you can take a look at the open spaces, the green spaces, the drive around that you can have, and where the community sits today. We also lowered it. We lowered the number of units. Obviously, you can imagine when you wait 2.5 years to do a project, cost goes up, expenses go up, carrying cost goes up, but we decided to do better for the community, much less than what we have the ability to go ask for. Go ahead. That's another perspective there. We have a fountain on the retention. Go ahead. And this gives you another perspective and another view. And we also have a video we'll show you later on that'll walk you through the whole place. But it's a really, I think, a beautiful place. And I do that because I'm going to own it. I'm part of it. I'm a partner in it. I brought in Jay because he has the expertise. He's developed many things before, quality, and through the mutual friendship that we've had for the years, I said, look, I want to do this, but it's not for sale or it's not to go flip, because I know who my neighbor is, and I want to make sure I have my neighbor. So I've invested millions of dollars. I'm going to invest another $200 million in this project when it's all done, and I want to know who my neighbor is, so my neighbor's me. And I say that to you because it's a joint venture that we have, but we're going to be here today, we're going to be here tomorrow, and we'll be here in the future. The succession of our business is still my son also as well, so I think long into the future, hopefully. As we continue out through here, there's some history, and I will let you take the history on if you want, but I hope to answer any questions for you and be able to speak to you about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. See if I can back that up. Okay, Chris.
You want me
Chris is
to-
our expert on this.
Here.
Go back to the history.
I have it right here for you.
So one of the things that, there we go. One of the things that is really unusual about this project, other than just the urban design and how much time we've taken to do this, and obviously Mario Morgado, who's a one-in-a-lifetime client, is the history of the project. So this is the last piece of a property that was annexed into the city in 1990s. That included all of the length of US 1 from the Lowe's all the way down past Advantage Ford or whatever the new Ford is. And it included Marketplace. It included, and so that's 2009 where the Marketplace is approved. Marketplace was over the entire property, the 12 acres that Mario acquired in 2012, as well as the 22 acres we're discussing this evening. All of that was a commercial, a humongous commercial center. And so tonight's application to change the land use is the last piece of that property. This is what was done in 2012 when Mario acquired the 12.31 acres for the Infiniti and for the Audi. As he said, brought a whole new level of dealership. We've done a lot of car dealerships. None of them look like this. And in fact, the bar has been raised in the city of Stuart because of Mario. So what was left that George Banks had was 22.71 acres, and it was called Marketplace, continued to be Marketplace. And it has 140,000 square foot big box and 5 out parcels. That was the plan, and a sea of parking. No green space. Yes, there is retention in the back, and yes, there is some native vegetation that was left. But by and large, the rest of this is just like any center up and down US 1. And some of those have done well, some of them have not. So here's the site plan rendered. So you could see that we'd have a couple of restaurants probably, and a big box, and I'm not sure what would be in that big box. 782 parking spaces. There is no pedestrian circulation. There are sidewalks required. When we did the Lowe's next door, we actually made a connection through the Lowe's to attach to this property, thinking that it potentially could be a mixed use. And that's what that large sidewalk is in Lowe's, that takes you out to the light, takes you to the McDonald's, and today takes you to the Publix. This generated, a shopping center like this generates 6,255 trips. Juan is here if we want to talk about the specifics. This proposal in front of you tonight generates 2,179 trips. And this is, again, an example why we need to talk about the CPUD at the same time we're doing the mix. Jay is going to walk you through the proposal. Mario touched on it, and Jay, as an urban designer and former LPA P&Z member in Delray, has some experience in a lot of this.
Good evening. My name is Jay Jacobson. I am the president of Eden Multifamily and one of the founders of the company. We are a purely residential multifamily development company and investment company based in Miami with offices throughout the state of Florida and North Carolina. Makes us sound a heck of a lot bigger than what we actually are. We are a family-owned business. Our company kind of matches some of what Mario explained that Mergado Automotive Group is also. We're a family-owned business. There's 3 partners, myself, my other founding partner, whose name also happens to be Jay Masserman. We make anyone who comes into the company change their name to Jay. But the 2 of us have been friends and business associates for going on 30 years now. We have a 3rd partner who is a family investment office based in the Northeast, but it's a family business. It's a family that have been in real estate and sports for 75 years, 80 years, and they feel about real estate investment the same way we do. We're not partnering with Mario to build a development and sell it as soon as it's leased up. That's not what we're gonna do here. Mario and his family are gonna own it, along with my partner and I, and our families are gonna own this. So when we do that, we look at it as a generational investment. And the generational ownership criteria for us is a lot different than if we were gonna build a project and then sell it as quickly as we can. We plan on being neighbors and investors in this mixed-use property for the next generation or so. Mario has children that are involved in his business. My partner has a son that is a senior member of our team. My daughter's not interested. I've tried, but she'd rather teach scuba diving down in the Keys. But that's okay. We all have kids like that. But we also, my background is pretty simple. I've been in the residential development business. 98% of what I've done in the past 40 years has been multifamily residential development. I have a background, I started out in life as an architect. I have multiple graduate degrees in urban design and city planning. I teach a class at the University of Miami through its Master's in Real Estate Development and Urbanism class once a year. So my passion has always been creating communities that interact with the surrounding neighborhoods, the surrounding municipalities, and the most interesting and projects that I like to work on, and I kind of force the company to do, is what I call, we look for urbanized suburban areas. It's, we look at higher, I don't want to say density, but higher mixed use solutions than what a typical multifamily apartment residential developer would be doing. So it has brought us to the plan that we have now, which I think is almost a quintessential positive solution for combining commercial, retail, residential, and community involvement in one design. Go back to the overall master plan, please, Mike. Going with the overall. Okay, so what we've worked with Mario and his team on since day one is how do you integrate auto dealerships, everything that goes around and is necessary for automotive dealerships to run their business and interact with the public, along with retail, but not just any retail. Retail that serves the defined community that we're in and that we're developing, but also the surrounding neighborhoods. And develop the apartment residential portion of the site with as little impact imposed on the surrounding neighborhoods. So the plan we came up with was that Mario's team will be adding 2 dealerships. I have no idea what they're going to be, but the 2 additional dealerships, about 20 to 21,000 square foot of retail. And again, it's neighborhood retail. It's 1, if not 2 restaurants. It's a Starbucks or something similar where people can actually go in, sit, have a cup of coffee, or drive around and get in and get out without imposing any impact on the rest of the development. We always develop our apartments with the community building, leasing offices, maintenance, the noise generators that everyone is concerned about, the pools, the outdoor kids areas, the gathering places that always generate some noise. They do. You know, we can't hide that. But we always site plan it so those generators are a fair distance away from any other surrounding communities, any other residential areas. The 3 buildings that we've come up with, the 2 that are the opposing L-shaped buildings are 4-story buildings. The one on the far left in this sketch is a 3-story building. I'll get into the history of why the number of units, the size, and the configuration, sits the way that it does. All right. Go ahead, Michael. Okay, so this is a little bit closer. The way we've site planned the retail is we have 2 commercial buildings plus, we'll call it Starbucks for use of lack of a better term right now. And hopefully there'll be restaurants. We designed them so they're not just one building. We designed it so there's attached open space. So you can have outdoor eating areas, outdoor walking areas that will connect to a community oriented, because this is all open to the community, a trail system that runs around this portion of the site, but also gives the public the ability to walk around the lake, it's an acre lake, a sizable lake, with a public plaza, grab something to eat, go sit out at the plaza. You don't have to drive your car from one side to the other. You park, have a meal, grab some takeout, sit in the public plaza. All right. So here's what we started with. This is what the folks that are here that attended the Willoughby meeting that we had a year plus ago, this is what they saw. This was 268 units. They're all 4-story buildings. There was a considerable number of apartment units facing Willoughby, even though the distance between our buildings and the closest homes was still somewhere around 360 to 420 feet. We heard their concerns. They were worried about everything from noise to security to light infiltration impacting their neighborhood. So we listened. And we revised the plan, Michael, to this updated proposal. We went from the 268 units, we dropped the density down to 249. We dropped one of the buildings down to 3-story. We still have 2 4-story buildings. We changed the orientation. So essentially, there are no balconies and no apartment exterior space facing the neighbors, none. You'll see in a further slide that the closest point to the closest home is 368 feet. The average, as you get to the more southerly part of the site, is 440 some odd feet. The reduction in numbers of units reduced our parking requirement. Switching the configuration the way we did offered us the ability to site plan a lot more open space in a contiguous fashion. So it added a second retention lake with a lot of green space, a lot of walking paths in between the buildings around that lake. And the open space on the far left is something that is almost unheard of in a multifamily apartment development. It's almost an acre and a half, plus or minus, of open green space. And Michael and his team will explain what we plan on doing with that through an environmental design feature that we're adding to the entire property. Michael, go ahead. Nope, next one. There you go. So what you're starting to see here is we've developed a series of green spaces. We're going to connect all the green spaces with a trail. So you'll be able to, in certain parts of the site, almost do I'd say a 3/4 of a mile loop around the property without crossing into anyone's living space or anyone's commercial space. We are adding connectivity to Lowe's, which you can buy pedestrian connectivity. And as Mario stated, you'll be able to, if you're so inclined, to walk to the new Publix, walk to Lowe's, walk up and down Federal, again, if you're so inclined. Michael? I'll let you cover this.
Yeah, this is an example so what Jay was just talking about was the stormwater design as well as the trail. This is the Pulte project that was built on East Ocean 2 years ago, surrounded by Kingswood. And this was an infill piece, one of the more challenging infill pieces that Pulte and we had done. And we worked with the community to extend their trails, to add a lake on the south end. But what this really is showing is how stormwater can be attractive, and at the same time, it can help clean the water. And so these are both recreational and bird life out there, fantastic. This is what Jay was talking about in terms of the trail and the sidewalks. Sometimes it's hard to see that, and two of the LPA members asked about this. And so we put this graphic together to say where you could walk if you lived here, if you visited here, if you shopped here, if you went to the dealership and you wanted to go next door. So this is a trail system. And one of the things that came out of the meeting with Willoughby was they asked about where the kids would play. And so when we did the reduction of the units and the parking, we created a separate playground. You can see it right there between the two southerly buildings. It's got a circle. That's conceptual, but that's a very nice playground from a scale standpoint. The other thing that I'm sure the LPA members are aware of is that Publix moved from where they were in Wedgwood. They're now on the far south end of Wedgwood. So that connection that we conceptualized with Lowe's back in the day actually now makes sense. So we show a sidewalk. It comes across here. This is secure. There is a gate for the cars, but not for the people. And you can walk across to Publix or take your bike or drive. Either of those are very convenient. One of the other things that came up at LPA discussion was the ability to do traffic light. And the traffic light that's at the McDonald's, which is just off the picture here, is too close for us, but we do, right here at our entrance, there's full turning. So there's left on the northbound, there's right, so there's actually quite a bit of so the discussion we had, and Mario looked at Google this afternoon, he goes, let's use that Google image because it's so clear. And it is, because this does not reflect the density of the trees that are there and the buffer that's there. So this is the detail of the southerly and the northerly buildings. Number 3 is 380 feet separate from the corner of a building, not a balcony. There were balconies, but they're not there now. And 430 to the southerly. We went on the site with Michelle and the club president. We ran a drone up in the air and see where we could see these buildings. And you could see them if they were 6 stories tall, but not 4 stories tall. So this is the separation, which is a parking area, a buffer, a native planting area, an existing canal that will improve. There's a lot of homelessness and homeless people all over the site here. And some of it is dangerous. and then the preserve on the other side. And then what you see in the aerial here is the berm that got built out of the 2012 agreement between Mario, George Banks, and Willoughby.
Let me finish and then.
Absolutely.
So Michael will get into a little bit more detail on the engineering and visibility issues or solutions. But let me just, kind of finish with, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've probably developed over 200 projects, about 38,000 units all over. So there's a lot of commonality when issues like this come up. I don't care where you are, what city you're in, what state you're in, wherever you are. I also spent 9 years as a member of the Planning Advisory Board in the city of Delray Beach. I was supposed to do it for 3. Next thing I realized, 9 years had gone by, and then finally they got sick of me, so I didn't reapply. So I've been on both sides. I've been in your position, I've been in my position. And what I always look for was what an applicant was asking for and how they were going to not impact the community in a negative way. Sometimes you can't get away from what some people perceive as negative impact versus someone else's definition of what a positive impact is. But what I try to put in all of the projects that we do is when community members have objections, we try to answer those objections. And I believe that what Mario and his team and myself and my team have done is answered pretty much every negative objection we've heard from various 50, 60, 70 members of the community. I always hear height. Why can't you build 1-story buildings? Why do you have to build 4-story buildings? I defy anyone on this project to tell me what the difference in impact is between a 3-story building and a 4-story building. You can't see the buildings. They're hidden. There's no way anyone can tell me they can stand on hole number 3 or the one next to it and tell me they're going to see these buildings. They're not. The berm, the foliage, the trees, the fencing, you can't see it. It's impossible. There's zero impact from the 2 4-story buildings and the 1 3 that we have on the adjacent property. Security, there's an existing fence. There's a canal. We're going to be doing our own fencing. The existing fence has barbed wire on it. I also find it beyond the pale, if you will, of thinking that someone's going to be running out of the apartment building or out of the retail space, jumping through that canal, jumping through 2 fences, jumping over the barbed wire, through 100-foot tall trees, and doing anything on the golf course. It just, it pales versus the reality of what I think the situation is. We heard that there were going to be hundreds of children on the property. Well, the Martin County School District says that under the old density, there would be 54 in their projection. The newer density probably takes that down to right around 50, maybe 49. We don't see, you could go to some other, in the county, not necessarily in Stewart, apartment complexes, and you don't get that many kids. You just don't. The county's projections are usually spot on, because they've got 100 years of being able to make those projections, and they usually are correct. Traffic, there's always, and it's hard to comprehend traffic impacts if you don't understand and study traffic generation. And Juan, our traffic engineer, can go through how those calculations are made. But what we're planning on developing between the 2 new dealerships, the retail, and the apartments, generate 30% of the traffic of what the existing zoning would generate if someone built out that density. Multifamily residential, and I'm going to get the nose here. Multifamily residential generates less traffic than single-family residential. It's just the reality. Doesn't rationally make sense to someone who is not a traffic engineer, but that's what it is. We manage the properties to a level that ensures us that the residents that come into our properties are, fulfill a number of criteria. One, they have to have credit so they can pay the rent. I mean, that's why we're all in business. Number two, we do background checks in accordance with fair housing laws. And we also manage the properties through an affiliated management company that my partner and his partner started years ago, recently sold it a couple years ago, but we still have an affiliation with them. So I have daily direct control over the folks who manage our properties and will be managing this property. It's not like we're hiring some major megalith apartment management company that works all over the world. These are our people. We hired them, we trained them. We basically sold the company and gave them a piece of what it was in the sales proceeds, so they own the company. And like I said, they're our people. I can call the president of the company tonight and she'll answer and take care of any issues that we have. We run the company like it was a family business. We use an architect that I went to architectural school with 40 years ago. He's still generating designs that he and I worked on 35 years ago. A good friend, good family friend. Contractors that we use are family-owned businesses. I don't use corporate entities. I won't use a public company, construction company. The construction companies we use will be one of 3 that we'll use here. They're all family-owned businesses, owned by the employees and owned by the founding families. That, to me, gives more continuity in what we do, and it gives me more control. As Mario stated, he's a partner in all of this with us. Well, let me reframe that. We are a partner with Mario in this development. It's a generational type investment for us. So what you see is what you get. You'll get this 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So what we're trying to do, and what we typically always perform on, is making the best operational and community engaged decisions over any type of corporate monetary type decisions. So that's what we bring, that's what we offer to the city of Stewart. So turn it over to the engineer who knows more about it than me.
I'm a landscape architect. I take offense to that comment. I'm sorry, Joe, I didn't mean that. So this was an exhibit we just did after our meeting out at the Willoughby site. It cuts through the buffer and shows you that height with that berm. And I got to compliment the staff in 2012 and the applicant in Willoughby for coming up with a $275,000 contribution that went toward that berm. And it's a heck of a berm. Jody, can you move that next one? So this is a picture of me on the site. This is, I think, on 3. And I'm 6 feet tall. I'm sitting at the base of the berm. That's 36 feet tall. And we have the landscape plan, really dense. You can't even tell that there's a fence with barbed wire in there, but there is. And the berm goes up pretty well. So the intention of the 2012 agreement really turned out good. The next one, Jody. So here's the comparison in a pie chart of the what Jay talked about. Marketplace generated 7,900 trips. If you go to the new gym that's just down the street in Wedgwood, it's a Crunch gym. You can see these numbers. That parking lot is full from 6 in the morning till 12 at night. And then the Eden Mart Stewart is our number of 2277. So it's almost a 70%, 67% reduction. Next slide, please. I know the LPA members are probably familiar with this because this Innovation Hub study was done over the last 3 years. It was a joint venture between Martin County and the city of Stewart. And what they identified is the area to the east of US 1. And by the way, we are located right up at the top left corner. You can see the Willoughby Golf Course and you can see the green space there. All of this is, they've identified it as core and edge. Economic Development Group came in and did this, and they looked at the number of patents that had been issued in Martin County, and the vast majority occurred in the commerce parks that you see in purple. So they are attempting to try to expand this and the Innovation Hub by connecting communities, walkable, and actually downtown Salerno. Commissioner Hurd, very actively involved with that part of this. The next slide. This talks about the connections that occur and that are important. And then the next slide talks about pedestrian connections. So, you know, we're so used to not having decent sidewalks here, and we're so used to not having trails, that the idea that you can actually start thinking about trails for the future becomes an exciting thing. So I mentioned when we started off that this is the last piece. So you can see in this picture that this area is very dense. Willoughby is green. Willoughby's always been a green oasis. And it's a beautiful community and golf club. All of the green in front of you are preserves. Walmart to the left, that's a preserve that they were part of. The City of Stewart Preserve was part of an acquisition for the Commerce Park, the Commerce Avenue development. And then the preserve, which is a flow-through marsh, is right over by Aldi's. So all of those green spaces are set aside and preserved. This really is the last piece within that large project that we talked about beforehand. And you can see it's very much would be defined as infill. So community benefits was a question, and I think Jay touched on a couple of those. This is a $200 million project. I've been in the city of Stewart for a long time. I think it establishes a new standard for mixed-use projects. I think we need more projects like this. We don't have a whole lot more land left that's large, but we do need to have creative mixed-use projects. And you know, the Avonlea project up in Jensen, North Stewart is an example. It's still working through some of its commercial, but it's how communities get a sense of place and character, and people know that the people that are in charge actually care about what things look like and how they function. The green space for the residents and the visitors from the big box, the Lakeside Plaza that Jay talked about, which is a lovely place to go sit if you're at the stores, pedestrian connections. We've done some of the apartment projects in the city, but I can tell you that none of them connect like this in a pedestrian way. They tend to be isolated. They tend to be just the apartments by themselves. That is not the case with this. The reduction in the traffic we talked about, innovative live-work environment that really fits well into this whole land use. It's right next to the Innovation Hub, which is going to be generating jobs for a long time, hopefully. And the stormwater treatment, which Steve and Joe helped put together, is actually better than this because the standards now are tougher than in the 2012 approval for the shopping center. So we're actually improving our stormwater, and that one slide showed you that. And I think lastly, mostly, is Mario Morgado's commitment to excellence. And in the city of Stewart, he's not said it, he's done it. And we will wait till after everything to do the fly-through that we have, if that's okay with you, Chair.
How many other presentations do we have from the applicant?
That's it. The last one we have is just the fly-through.
I think that we should go ahead and do,
Okay.
I thought we were hearing everything together, so we should
Okay.
go ahead and do that.
Sure. What's that? Yeah, going back to the questions part before that. Okay, yeah, just wait on this. It actually takes a second to load up. And we appreciate your patience, and this will be the last part.
not showing, it shows flyby video, but. Oh, there. Hold on.
Sounded like it.
Yeah, here you go.
Back.
Here we go. Thank you. This is obviously US 1, and there are not a whole lot of shopping centers like this in the city of Stewart along US 1. The entrance to the community, the apartments in the circle, which also ties into the new dealerships. Mr. Morgado continues to use a contemporary design for these. Get a sense of how we've integrated all these uses together, this sense of arrival to the community clubhouse. Off to the right, you will see the little plaza that we talked about right there on the lake. These are the buildings. These are the reoriented buildings, so they're facing US 1 instead of toward Willoughby. This is facing north. And there's the side that would face Willoughby, right? The new lake. It's the sidewalks that Jay talked about. You see that lake? And then this is the plaza with the playground. Thank you guys very much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and that concludes any presentations and witnesses that you had, correct? Yes, ma'am. Okay, I just want. Of course, okay. Right, do the board members have any questions for the petitioner?
I guess I'm wondering, are we now going to discuss the two items separately, or are we still asking questions all together?
I say we ask questions all together, if that is okay.
Sorry, Mr.
Oh, yes, sir, what did you need?
My name is Jack Carmody. I'm an attorney, and I represent the Willoughby Golf Club.
Oh, sir, wait a minute. So are you, okay, so since this is quasi judicial, you're a comment? Where's the attorney? Over there. I don't think we can have you yet, based on the order of the quasi judicial. Am I right or wrong?
Correct. They have not filed as an intervener. However, the board can allow him to speak. It's my impression that there are a lot of people here from Willoughby, and he's representing them all.
Okay.
Or you can wait the public comment. I think that's up to you.
I just didn't know if we needed to follow this order, which says public comment can't come till later.
The sheet is a guide,
Okay, just
but
making sure.
if, I'd like for you to follow as best you can.
Okay, that's what I'm trying.
But obviously, even the applicant has been trying to work with Willoughby throughout this.
Okay.
Does the
Okay,
applicant
are
have
we
any
okay
objection
with
to that?
having this gentleman present?
Yes.
The applicant's fine.
Sir, go ahead, please state your name for the record.
My name is Jack Carmody, and I'm an attorney, and I do represent the Willoughby Golf Club. And I'm blown away, I'm absolutely blown away by what we saw up here. It's a wonderful thing, and once again, I'm very impressed by Mr. Morgado, and we don't have any problems with what he's done. And we think the front part of the project where the restaurants and the car dealerships are going to be are wonderful. Our problem is the back part with the buildings, okay? What you have been advised is that there were previous approvals on this property, and commitments were made when those approvals were made. And we're here tonight to have you follow up on those commitments. Mr. Morgado says he's a man of his word, and we believe that, and I think he may not be aware of some commitments he made in the past. We'll make him aware of that tonight. We have two ways that we want to approach you. First is on common sense, okay? You went through a very, very long presentation, but we're going to ask you to use just common sense, never mind everything up there, okay? Let's first talk about traffic, all right? I don't care what their traffic engineer gets up here and says. If you tried to get here tonight, you know what traffic is, okay? So you know any additional apartments are going to create traffic. Second, all noise. They admitted the noise is a problem. Now, you got to understand, we are a golf course community. Two of our golf holes run parallel to where they are. When you're playing golf, I don't know if any of you do, noise isn't something that you just welcome. So we're concerned about that. So not only our adjacent property owners, but the whole community is going to be affected by this, okay? We're talking again 4-story and 3-story buildings. Property values. If you're living across from them and you have a 4-story building and go up a 3-story building, you don't think that's going to affect your property value? Definitely. At least I hope you understand it will. The 4-story buildings will also deteriorate from the small town Stewart character. It's happening now. We, at one time, were so proud of a small community. These multifamily structures are further deteriorating that. We want you to take that into consideration. One other thing, there is no layering or they go right from the 4-story buildings down to our single-family homes. There's nothing in between us, and I think in good planning, there is a step-up procedure. But what we're really here about is commitments that have been made to us in the past. You have a handout that I gave you.
Yes, sir.
You have before you ordinance number 219009. This is on this piece of property, and if you will turn to page 15 of 19, and I have it there for you. Put that up. Under development and construction, number 25. Construction of all permanent buildings shall comply with section 6.0911 of the City Land Development Code and shall be limited to the height specified in the approved building elevations. The building height of the rear west facade of the main anchor building shall be limited to 26 feet, which include a parapet. This commitment was made to the Willoughby community back in 2009. If you'll turn to the next page, 2012, once again, a city ordinance. 2012, if you will go on that. We'll find, I don't have my mark here. Here it is, on number 27. Construction of all permanent buildings to comply once again with that section of the code. The bottom line, the building height of the rear west facade of the main anchor building shall be limited to 26 feet and will include a parapet. We've had that commitment made to us 2 times now. This is our 3rd time around. We are very fortunate because we still have the general manager of Willoughby, who was present and did those negotiations, and she's going to come up and tell you how important that 26-foot limitation is to Willoughby.
Good evening, Michelle Riley, General Manager, Willoughby Golf Club. I've been before the LPA many times, the first of which was in 2000, referenced the Lowe's project. So that's how long I've been talking about this particular parcel. The height of Lowe's is 26 feet too. So this is 25 years we've been talking about that parcel through a series of permutations, 2000, 2009, 2012, and that has been central through our negotiations. Not only the 26 feet height, but the distance from our property line. And Mr. Carmody is absolutely correct. People buy their property in Willoughby Golf Club predominantly to play golf. So whether you live on the 3rd hole or the 14th hole, or you live closer to Doubleton Drive, what impacts the golf course impacts your property value, because you may not be able to sell your home to another golfer if the golf course is noisier, if there's apartments in clear view of the golf course. So the proximity of the apartment building to the closest resident is important, but the third green, 14th green, also important. Car door slam, music, in, out. That retention canal behind there, it's dry most of the time. I hate to tell you the number of kids we have coming up and over that fence now, because we've got great fishing in Willoughby in addition to great golf. So we're very concerned. The 26 feet height, again, is a promise made 25 years in the making. If you go back and you Google some of the T.C. Palm articles, and I know Jack shared one with you, but there was an editorial that said, you know, the memory of government, especially in turnover, right? It's hard to maintain these memories over a period of time. All of you are new. All of the staff has turned over. The only people from the beginning, I think, are Michael Houston and myself. He was here in 2000 as well. So we're fortunate, I think, in that we have continuity both with me and with some of the residents who you will hear speak tonight. But again, 25-year commitment in the making with the City of Stewart and this local planning agency. We're counting on you, and I'm retiring in about 60 days, so you just caught me. But we're counting on you to hold true to your commitment that you've made to us over time. So we appreciate it, and we thank you for your consideration.
Mr. Morgado talked about him being family. We are a community, and we ask you to protect us. Unfortunately, we are not a co-signer to the agreement, so we have no legal standing to bring any type of a legal recourse. We have to rely on you and the city commissioners to protect our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, now, do the board members have any question for the petitioner?
Specifically for the petitioner or for staff as well?
It's first for the petitioner, staff is second. Any questions for the petitioner?
I've got one for the petitioner. The multifamily, will those be concrete block or frame construction?
Right now, we're looking at Right now, my preference is concrete block for a number of reasons. I like building in block, and insurance costs are a lot less, replacement costs are a lot less, but Stewart is in that break line between South Florida and Central Florida where you can do either one.
Right.
But my preference is always concrete.
Okay, thank you. One thing I've noticed in the city, on the 4-story apartments, multifamily, where they use frame, especially past the first floor, over time, you start to see some of the deterioration on the exterior, no matter how well you try to maintain it. So it's just a concern I have. I would like to say, I've been through this quite a few times, I think, back to '09, so I have seen this. The presentation I saw tonight, I felt like was a very adequate way to adjust the sight lines of the multifamily. And by not having any of the multifamily directly looking at the golf course, I think that was impactful. I thought the play area in the community pool away from Willoughby was a good thing. I do think that will assist with the noise. And I think as far as lighting, that's all, that has to be contained within the site. There's no option there. So of all the iterations I have seen, this is by far the best. And when I compare it to the big box retail, which I know we're not doing a lot of big box retail now, there is no question there will be a decrease in traffic. If you take of our 852-page packet, I would say 500 pages were traffic studies. I think there were 3 iterations and then a 4th response with all the backup generation data. So in my opinion, there's a significant decrease in traffic from this project to what it potentially could be. And I think you bring in somebody like Mr. Morgado, who I met, he may not remember, back when he just opened his Audi dealership. I was on the Education Foundation board, and I was there when he made his commitment to the Education Foundation. As a new community member, I heard about his history before he came here. I was impressed. And then I see what he's doing now in our community. I'm impressed. So I look at this as, here we have a group that's willing to invest a significant amount of money for the city of Stewart in a very unique way and style. I'm comfortable allowing a change in a height limitation to bring this overall project, which I think is a good project, together.
Mr. Morgado, you mentioned in your presentation, and I know you kind of just alluded to it, some things you've done to give back to the community, but you kind of merged them with things that you've done as a whole in your company. Can you speak a little bit, since you have built your dealership, what you've done for the community of Stewart to give back?
Sure, be happy to. have supported the police, have supported the sheriff department, have supported the schools, have supported the church, have supported other Christian communities that are there, have supported different clubs, have given my showroom, have given my conference room on a consistent basis open for them to go use it, for all the, you have incredible people that are retired in this area that don't have a place when they do, what would I say, not pro bono, but they belong to non-for-profits, and so I give them the place. I said, all you have to do is just call, book it, take care of it. We'll bring you the coffee, we'll bring you the donuts, we'll bring you the food if you want to have lunch or if you want to have breakfast here, and we've done that on a consistent basis. We've done multiple things for the community, all at the Audi store, and then also at the Infinity store. We've done art for the kids that we've done on a consistent basis now, I believe, maybe 8 years. So I can give you a list of everything we've done here. I'm really not someone that tries to speak about this. I truly try to tell you my actions and how I do things. That's how I try to do it. We give because it's important to be part of the community.
Okay. Great, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions?
Question about, while you're up there, about the commercial space. You know, in the presentation, there's this great dream of this being, you know, all restaurant space, and it's gonna be walkable to the apartments, but correct me if I'm wrong, there's no guarantee that's what's gonna go in there. I mean, this could become a paint store, this could become anything in the commercial space. You can't control and guarantee what, you know, renter is gonna come in and take that space. Is that correct?
So in this case, I'll guarantee you, and here's why I'll guarantee you. I won't put a paint place. I won't put that. It does. You have to understand, my biggest investment isn't these units. My biggest investment was the initial investment that I did. The Audi store, the Infinity store, the Alfa and the Maserati and the Future 2 stores. That investment, when you're all over and done, is over a $400 million investment, not $200 million investment. So I'm going to take care of it. That's why it's important to me who the neighbor is that I have. The things that I look there, I look to get Starbucks, not another one. If I get another one, it has to be a very, very different type of, you know, coffee to have there. I take a look at restaurants. I look at this community, and I'll tell you things that I wanted to bring here. I wanted to bring a JW here. Marriott looked at it and didn't want to do it. And I said, there's no place for me to ever have my Christmas party and bring all the families. There's no place here. There's no place that when I want to have a celebration here that I can't. I got to go somewhere else. Either I got to go to Palm Beach or I got to go further north to do that. I love to do things in this community. I love to be part of this community. I love to be able to, you know, to have it. There's a lot of things that I think are missing that are upscale to have there. I've looked at different things, either be retail, and I said, well, you can't do that, so let's do restaurants. Let's go. So really, I like to have 2 restaurants, not one. If we have to go one bigger, then we'll do one bigger, but I prefer to have 2, just so you can have different things. Sometimes restaurants are good for dinner, but aren't good for lunch, and we got to have for both for lunch. So that's our desire to be able to do that. I won't have it. I don't need that. I need to protect my big business, and my business needs to have, you know, that's why if I sold the property, then whoever could take care of it. You asked, is it going to be brick, or is it going to be cement blocks, or is it going to be wood? I understand exactly what happens. The stucco starts breaking down, it starts fading, it starts cracking, it looks terrible. And from a safety standpoint, we could have a hurricane or we could not have a hurricane. At the end of the day, I don't have that choice to know, so we take the better course. Better course is a small investment that's larger at the beginning. Long term, it pays off in dividends many times.
Okay. For the jobs that you referenced, the job creation, do you intend that to be from people that you move from out of the community, that are outside of the community, or is it intended to be jobs for the specific community?
There is nothing better than having local. Look, the best marketing, the best advertising is when I sell a car. If you take it to the shopping center, if you take it to the church, if you take it to the golf club, if you take it anywhere, that's what people see you back and forth. That's how you interact. When you go home and you park it in your driveway, that's what sells the most for me. That's what I try to create. That's what I try to have. Our desire is to have people here. I don't want to lose people here. I've spoken different times at the economics. I've spoken different times with different folks. I've spoken at the Rotary Club. And here's some things that I always tell them. I said, you're losing your youth. And without, you can protect all you want. You don't want to change, it's great. But at the end of the day, you're losing your youth. So your youth grows up, goes to college, and doesn't come back. Makes a life different place. And that happens in other places, but more often here I'm seeing it. And I don't want that, because you want to have that here, that you want this beautiful community, this beautiful way of life that you have, you want to maintain that, and you want to keep on having that. And it's not just for us, and it's ours to be able to give to the future also as well. That's what I'm going to have. And it's all employees here. Nothing makes me happier today. I hope that I have some of the residents are employees that I have there also living there. That's really because today they got to live way north or way south, because it's unaffordable and there's nothing there.
Thank you. Yes.
I guess my question for you is, I know Miami, Delray Beach, we're not Miami or Delray Beach. And
Nowhere
I
near
don't
it.
think we want to be. Even a JW Marriott, I don't want a JW Marriott in Stewart. But that's personally, I think that looking at this project, it's beautiful, but it could be in Miami, it could be in North Carolina, it could be in Chicago, it could be anywhere. It has a placelessness. There's nothing that delineates it that says this is historic Stewart. This is a small coastal town. It's modern buildings, it's flashy car dealerships, it's chain coffee shops, it's not agreeing with your commitments to a community that's been here for a really long time and has had commitments from this, this property and from you since 2000. I don't see, even just in the architecture, I know the other gentleman had said he was an architect, but this is not it's a lot of what new stuff's coming in is looking like, but there's nothing coastal, historic, even Spanish-style architecture. It's very modern and cold and doesn't really, so I guess I understand that you're making investments monetarily in the city of Stewart, and you're obviously, this is a business and you're trying to make money off of it, but I'm wondering how this really fits into the character of a small town when we're, do we need more apartments? We feel like we've had a lot. What is the community benefit of this? And it certainly doesn't seem in keeping with the character of the community.
And I would just like to comment, as I shared with Mr. Houston, I also was concerned with the overall, not so much the car dealerships in the front, but that the architectural renderings of the back was too modern for me. I agree with what she stated, that I was looking for something that was much more coastal in appearance, much more warm. That was one of the feedback that I also had provided. So I agree with that portion of the concern.
So I would be open to take a look at it from the design standpoint that would give you that coastal look. But I will tell you that I think things change, and that's why it's like that. But I'm happy to take a look at things.
Yeah, it looks very Miami, and we're not Miami.
It's not Miami.
Okay.
I happen to have a home in Miami. I live in Miami. I also have in Chicago.
But I think you could pick this parcel up and plop it in any other community, and it wouldn't look out of place because it's kind of placeless, my opinion. My other comment is that not only does it seem that we're increasing the building heights at the back, and you're showing how far off you are, but the actual green space at the back seems to have shrunk from what's behind Lowe's and even what's behind the other dealerships. We've contracted in so that there's less green space. I understand there's parking there, but we are talking concrete to the Willoughby property. That distance seems, and I feel like there is a number somewhere, I'm not sure that I have it at the tip of my fingers, but just the actual buffer of green space between Willoughby and this new portion seems to have shrunk.
Sure, go ahead.
So it slightly has shifted.
Shifted or shrunk?
It's shifted over, so it's gotten shrunk. If you looked at it from the approval and what Mr. Carmody referenced, that wall went entire length of the property, the entire length of the property. So just like Lowe's is, and just like Lowe's is the best example, there is no separation beyond that wall. What we've done is we've created two bookends that face towards the community and then have a huge open space inside that community. So that wall that was there for this cross-section that Jack showed was probably 600 feet long, maybe 1,000 feet long across the whole thing.
And now no wall?
Well, now what we have is three bookends to the apartments. So there is parking in there. The green space is slightly less on this, but the big difference is that big box was just like Lowe's along the entire length of the property, which is why the Lowe's approval was challenged as well. The lights, the loudspeakers, when the dumpsters were going to be cleared, when the service stuff happened, all those things that happen in a big box. And quite frankly, if this is a Walmart, there's a lot more noise than at the Lowe's.
I guess one of my other questions too is also concerning traffic. This traffic study's done based on what's being proposed, but as in the past, what's proposed doesn't always happen. So is the traffic study ever done, and maybe this is a question for staff, based on the maximum could be allowed under this land usage? If we change it from commercial to neighborhood special district and go at that maximum, because who knows who's on the commission in 10 years when this expires and somebody else, Mr. Morgado partners with somebody else and another proposal comes forward, what's the maximum? And is this traffic done on this proposal or on the maximum that if we gave them, because the land usage stays, right? So no matter what, we give them this land usage, even if they never build it, whoever bought that property would now have a neighborhood special district.
Excuse me, I can answer that question real fast. Just what the evaluation is that currently has a land use of commercial. So the question for the board would be, I understand what you're saying, like, who could come next? Well, if you didn't take action at all, somebody could come next with the land use of commercial. So the real issue is the difference between the maximum amount that could come as a land use of neighborhood special district versus the difference between the amount that could come as commercial. So if you could have 100 cars as a commercial, you could have 1,000 cars as neighborhood special district, 900 would be the increase. But to do a traffic study on every scenario under commercial, you have 0 to 15% can be residential, and up to 80 and up to 100% can be commercial, with a FAR of 3. Under neighborhood special district, 0 to 90% can be residential, and up to 70% can be commercial with a FAR of 3. So there's an infinite number of possible scenarios between residential and commercial to do all of those traffic scenarios. But neighborhood special district demonstrates that its maximum commercial capacity is 70% of the property versus 100%. So it's a 30% reduction in square footage. And then its maximum residential capacity is 90% instead of 15%, which, again, the density doesn't change because the number of units is technically based upon the gross. The density is, can you fit all those units in 15% of the property or 90% of the property? So if you did that traffic evaluation that you're talking about, you'd probably end up with the exact same number because, for example, under the commercial, if you had 35 acres, I don't know if this is a 20-acre conversation or a 35, because if it stayed, it would be 35, even though they're only asking to move 20 to special neighborhood district. But let's say it's 20. If it's 20 acres, you'd have 20 times 43,560, because that's how many square feet are in each acre, times 3. And whatever that number is, which would be an enormous number, would be the commercial space. If it was under neighborhood special district, it would be not 20 because it could only be 90%. So 18 times 43,560 times 3 would be the number. But it's still a big number that happens. And I understand, and it's a well-taken question, but we've always been unable to calculate because it could be 90-10, 89-11, 88-12, you have to do all the calculations.
I have a question, and maybe you put this in the presentation and I missed it. What is now, if it changed to neighborhood special district, what is the percentage commercial to multifamily residential? Do you know?
Yes, we have that figure for you.
You know, you would probably look at it from a land standpoint as compared to coverage. And it's probably, 50-50.
Okay.
Probably 60-40. Part of mixed use is that the idea that you share roads, that you share drainage, that you share preserve, that you share buffers. So it's a little hard to answer that. But Ms. Peterson, I wanted to go back real quick. The analysis is done very specifically on the approval that was done in 2012 with 160,000 square foot of big box and the 5 out parcels, and very specifically on this plan. Juan is here if you wanted to walk through it, because one of the analysis he did was what happens in AM, peak hour, what happens at PM, peak hour, and then what happens over the whole day.
I guess one of my questions on the traffic also is there only going to be pedestrian through Delos, or is there going to be, or is that an exit for vehicular traffic?
The southerly one, yes, the one closest to US 1. but not the one further up.
That's back by the apartments?
That would just be pedestrians.
Okay, so if I wanted to leave the apartments or this Starbucks or whatever other restaurant or whatever is there and go north towards the Roosevelt Bridge, I would have to go across traffic on US 1 heading south, hit that light at Pomeroy, and then make a U-turn? Is that the only way to go north?
Or you could go out the southern entrance and make a left there through Lowe's to the light, but that is the one light.
So you can go, so you'd be cutting either in front of the Lowe's Plaza or behind the Lowe's Plaza to go to the light at Fisher?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, when it was intended as commercial, that road would have come straight through. As residential, it does not. But as I mentioned to you, and you raised the question, the turning movements right there in front on Miami do allow you to make a number of turns. So if you leave out of the southern entrance, and as long as you have given your enough time to get to the left lane, you'll do a U-turn right in front of the project.
Okay. And I guess my other comment on this as far as traffic is concerned, I know we're saying we're decreasing traffic, but according to the staff report, the land usage will increase density and intensity on this property over what it would be if it was commercial. So we may be doing a little bit better in one metric, but in the others, we are maxing out this property by changing the land usage.
A couple of questions for the applicant. So to the percentages of what's allowed, have you ever accomplished a mixed-use development that had 15% or less residential?
No, I've never done it. This is the first project I do like this.
Yeah, so I guess my point being is I think, by not allowing the special district, you're eliminating the feasibility of any residential in the project. Does that make sense? And then my follow-up question is back to the 4-story versus 3-story. How did we end up with 2 4-story buildings and 1 3-story building versus what was mentioned was like stepping the buildings up? Like, couldn't you have not done 4 stories along the front side and then step down to 3 stories on the back, so then you only have 3 stories on the Willoughby side?
When you say the front, tell me exactly what you're talking. At
Like
the front of the
commercial
property?
side, yeah, so that all 3 buildings are 4 stories on the, street side essentially, and then steps down to 3 stories at the rear side.
To kind of give it that layering effect that we're talking about that city planning does, is that you don't just go from 1 story up to 4 stories, like Mr. Carmody said. Is there a way that these buildings could have stepped up versus just all?
Could that be accomplished? Yes. But what would happen is you would lose probably half of the open space that we have in this, and you would end up with a horizontal elevation of maybe a third of the units facing Willoughby. So that's 100 balconies, 100 apartments, even in a 3-story configuration, facing the Willoughby property
Then
line.
you take the layout you have now and you take off the 4-story, rear of the 4-story, put them on the front of the 3-story, you're not changing the layout then.
The issue then is you run into really inefficient buildings.
Yeah, it's a
Very
stacking
inefficient.
mechanism.
It's a whole, very inefficient. And frankly, they look fun. But let me address your comment about place, if I may.
Sure.
And elevations don't make place. Pedestrian and horizontal construction, design, landscape, open space makes place. There are hundreds of studies that I can send all of you from the ULI, from the National Multi-Housing Council, from Harvard Graduate School of Design, from FIU, from UF College of Architecture, which I'm a graduate of, don't like admitting that sometimes, but I am, is that anything above 12 to 20 feet to a pedestrian just doesn't really exist in their perception of what a building looks like. Building elevations really come into play when you're a distance away. So what we like to do, what I think we've accomplished here, is we've integrated all the landscaping, the pedestrian walkways, the trail system, the seating areas, the fountains, the pedestrian components is what, in my mind, makes a place. You can go down the Federal and there's a couple apartment deals way down or up north. I don't want to mention any names because they're friends of mine. I know them. But they do the same thing everywhere. What they built here, they'll build in Port St. Lucie, they'll build in Port Orange. It's all the same. I do take the comment you made about the buildings looking almost too Miami or to Delray or whatever. We used to have that discussion
Not
all
Stewart.
the time. And not Stewart, because in Delray, we used to call it the village by the sea. Can't tell you how many hours of debates we would have. We can address that, as Mario said. That's easy to do, very easy. I'm not tied in, and I don't think Mario is tied into the elevations on the apartment. Dealerships are one thing, retail is another thing. Retailers and restaurants and those types, they have very specific design criteria. The residential is all up to us. So we can tweak that. I am always afraid, though, of trying to create a modern version of an historic design nomenclature. So that, to me, is something that we could work on. We could work on it very closely. That's easy to prove. A couple other things. And to me, there's 4, I call them trigger words that people use, whether it's adjacent property owners, board members, land use attorneys. They're the same 4 that have been used for 50 years. One is traffic. When you talk about apartments versus something else, everyone thinks, no matter what the science is, that an apartment complex generates a lot more traffic than anything else, when in fact, we know that that's not true. But it's a good trigger word. The second is noise. I defy anybody to think that if you want to generate noise, have someone build a Walmart or another Lowe's when you have 50 18-wheelers coming in 24/7. Want to generate noise in the middle of the night? I don't care how far away you are. That beep, 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 beep. Look, you keep everyone away. This doesn't. Car doors slamming. Thinks it's going to disrupt people playing golf. Let's take a car out to Martin County High School. Put car at one end zone of a football field, and we'll walk over to the other end zone, slam the door. You won't hear it. It's impossible. That type of noise just doesn't carry. And we can control the noise. I can control when a trash truck comes into the property and where those dumpsters will be placed. I don't have to put any on the Willoughby side. I can put all of that stuff and all of that traffic, all of that, because those trash trucks do go beep, beep, beep. I can control when they come in. I can control where they go, how they come in, how they go out. Height. You can't see it. How does it affect anything? Those buildings will never be seen by anybody on that golf course. It's impossible. There's too many barriers in between the course, the homes, and this property. And light. Light is always a big deal, and I agree. I hate driving down properties and seeing, the buildings lit up like it's, that buildings are lit up like Times Square. We don't light our buildings. It's ridiculous. It serves zero purpose. What we light is ground level, because we want people driving around the property, walking around the property, to have a safe, lit environment. However, the city does have requirements for parking lot light. I don't know in Stewart if that's a 25-foot standard or it's a 30-foot standard, but you have regulations that we have to match to. However, those lights, given current LED technology, can be designed so they don't spill over. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Mario probably has them in some of your parking. You have to do that. But the buildings aren't going to be lit. So even if you're driving by on Federal or someone's flying a drone from the back of their house in Willoughby, you won't see buildings being lit up. We just don't do that. It makes no sense whatsoever. So.
I understand you're saying that they're not going to see the buildings, but I kind of likened it if I said to my next door neighbor, hey, I'm going to put an addition on my house. So I'm going to, because I know it's going to impact you because I'm going to have a patio and whatever over there. I'm going to build a little fence and put some trees up for you. And they say, that's great. And then all of a sudden I pull new permits and I look for a 3-story addition on it. And then she says, well, that's not, you gave me a fence and some trees, but, so you gave them some money back then, but it was based on 26-foot heights, and the berm was created based on 26-foot heights, and it was based on so big of a barrier. So is there a thought that they should also get additional trees, funding, berms to
Keep in
help?
mind that that was over 20 years ago.
But it was an agreement.
Right.
Let me share that, let me share that. So I didn't make that agreement. That's in 2000. when
But
it
you
was-
bought it based on that agreement.
No, in 2000, when they did that, that was with banks. In 2012, when I bought it, I agreed the agreement, and I added additional, where I put in $295,000 to add to a berm that they did there, and we said, I can't remember the exact tree with a certain size, at a certain size, and that's what I gave you.
But based on 26 feet. You gave it to them based on 26 feet, and now we're not doing 26. So part of your agreement, you're keeping the same, but part of it you want to change, and the part that seems to want to change is not in favor of Willoughby.
We're not suggesting that we're going to modify that or rectify that. The existing landscape and the existing trees and the barrier over the last 20 years have grown from a 26-foot coverage to 60, 70-foot coverage. You know, the trees grew, and they are fairly thick. I mean, you can go out there, Mr. Houston will be glad to take you out there or show you the videos that we've taken. You can't see through them. If it was new starting today, I would agree with it. But the issue, or the determination that we've made is what's existing has mollified all of that concern because it just doesn't exist. And let me address the elephant in the room. That's property values. I've been hearing from, I don't care where you are, adjacent homeowners will always say an apartment complex will denigrate or reduce their property value. Again, I can show you study after study after study that will show you that a properly designed, a properly managed apartment complex of the quality that we are proposing does nothing to affect anyone's property values. In some cases, it helps increase the neighborhood and the adjacent area property values. I would agree to some extent that if we were going to build these apartments and separate from here to the single-family homes in Willoughby or to the golf course by 25 feet, by 50 feet, there might be some sort of impact on value. That's just normal. We're 380 to 450 feet away. Zero impact. It just doesn't happen.
All right. Do we have any other, yes?
When I looked at the plan, I was excited about it because here is someone who wants to develop and provide housing and not just another storage unit. I tell people whenever a storage unit come before me up here, I'm just not happy. But here is housing, and I just want to say, you can look the record up, birth rate is down. We need children and we need youngsters. So every time something comes before us, we talk about changing Stewart. Once there's life, there's going to be changes. And I think the consideration that was given to accommodating Willoughby, and still talk with Willoughby and see if there are other accommodations that you can do. But I think if we're reasonable, a lot of thought was put into this, making it a walk-in space, having a nice layout. We complain all the time that we need housing in Stewart. So I'm also, you know, I don't like to see people upset about the fact that they were promised something and then something else has come up. I want to be sensitive to that. So I say, go back, see if there's anything else you can do, but I think you have done quite a bit. I like the fact that all the activity is contained in between the two L-shaped buildings that you turn the other way. And to me, it seemed like a very reasonable project. But I would say, you know, if there's any more buffering that you can do, still try to accommodate. But I think having housing in Stewart is important at this time, and I appreciate the consideration of the project.
Can we move on? Is everyone all right if we move on to comments from the public? Do we have comments?
Ms. Michelle Riley?
She's gone.
Thank you.
Can I
Michael,
see, can I see how many comments we have?
just two.
Just two. Okay, all right, go ahead.
Michael Schubert?
Good evening. My name is Michael Schubert. I'm here with my wife, Linda. We live in Willoughby. We purchased our house in 2010. Mr. Morgado was very nice to point out our house to you in his presentation, because my house is the one that's 300 feet from his property. And I have no ill will to Mr. Morgado. My wife and I have bought two Audis from him, and very nice to deal with. Why I'm here, though, is I object to the change in zoning. When I purchased my house in 2010, I met with Michelle, because I live on that piece of property that wasn't built on. And she showed me the city ordinances that said 26 feet is as high as they can go. So now here we are, 15 years later, and they want to put a 4-story building next to it. I object to that. I think that as a property owner, you should have the ability to have some trust that the city will keep their promises and not radically change the zoning that's right next door to you. And I ask you to do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Nelson Levy?
Hi, thank you. I'm actually taking a very different tack, and that's why I want to speak with you. As you saw, I gave you my resume. I used to be a hotshot, you know, but I'm not concerned. My concern is not the height of this building. Our home is way on the other side of Willoughby, and I'm not a golfer. I'm a gardener, so I won't see it. But I'm not sure how to phrase this other than to say that as a physician, as a scientist, as a person who spent his entire life, you know, on matters that look to the well-being of other human beings, in my opinion, this development is a sociologic debacle. And that's why I'm here. You know, I haven't complained about other, you know, I didn't complain about the Costco that's going up. That's not my thing. But this, and of course, the commercial stuff that they're putting in the front may be beautiful. But where they're sticking these 300 units is not the right place. Why? Just look at it. They drew beautiful, pretty pictures. On one side is a big box store. On the other side is a car dealership. Who knows what they're going to do in the front? You people ask questions about it. And the only area that doesn't box the residents in is in the back, where we are. And of course, they've drawn it nicely and everything. Who knows what that wood's going to be? But the bottom line is that all the residents stuck in that place are going to be boxed in, however you want to look at it. And those kids, when they go to school, you know, you asked about school buses and they responded to it. Maybe the number will be X, maybe the number will be X plus Y. But there's going to be a lot of them. And how are those kids going to get to school? They're going to, maybe they'll walk out to Route 1. That's a great idea. Or maybe they'll hop the fence and cut across our property to get to the school, which is over there. But the bottom line is that parcel of land behind all this commercial is not meant for apartments. It simply isn't. It's boxed in on three sides, the fourth side being us. So please, I mean, I'm not talking about value, I'm not talking about golf, I'm not talking about seeing the damn roof. I'm talking about common sense as a, from a sociologic, sensible point of view. And I say this as a reasonably distinguished physician, scientist, and professor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Rachel Snyder.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Rachel Snyder. I am a resident and business owner in the city. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank you for your service. I know your job up there is not easy. I'm here today in support of Mario Mergado and his vision for this project. For over a decade, Mario Mergado has been a pillar of our community, not just as a successful business owner, but also a dedicated community partner. Through Mergado Automotive, he has contributed hundreds of thousands of dollars to local nonprofits, supporting programs that uplift families, education, and essential services in our city. His professionalism and commitment to excellence are evident in everything he does, and I assure you this project is no exception. I know this because I've had the privilege of working alongside Mario for many years, since day one, actually, of the dealerships in this city. I've helped to manage local nonprofit partnerships and events on behalf of the local dealerships. In that time, I've seen firsthand his unwavering integrity, generosity, and dedication to uplift those around him. His leadership has pushed me to be better. It has made my business better, and most importantly, enriched this community in countless ways. He challenges those around him to be better, to do better, and give back, and our community is stronger because of it. I recognize that conversations about growth and change can be difficult, but thoughtful, well-planned investments like this strengthen our community. This isn't about rapid expansion, it's about smart, responsible progress led by someone with a long-standing track record of doing things the right way here in our town. I urge you to consider not just the proposal itself, but the character of the person behind it. Mario Mergado has built businesses that contribute to our local economy and enhance the quality of life for those who live and work here. This initiative is an extension of that commitment, and I encourage you to please give it your full consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Glenn Wubo? Sorry, probably said that wrong.
Good evening. I'm Glenn Weber. I'm a Willoughby resident. The developer has certainly listened and made some nice improvements and modifications to the plan. The issue from my perspective is with the residential component. What happens if they are wrong about the height of the buildings and they are visible to the community? Then what? The project's already approved, the ship has sailed. So that's my number one concern. Property values, we have 375 people that are potentially affected by this, 375 homeowners, probably 750 people or more that are affected if things don't go well with this project and with the visibility. Those height restrictions that Ms. Riley made reference to, they were negotiated for a purpose for years ago, and the 375 residents of their homes in that community have relied upon those representations. So noise, sitting through this meeting, we've heard several Bright Line trains and other trains come rumbling through. Noise has certainly become louder. Here comes another one. Noise has certainly become more of a problem in this community, and I can tell you as a Willoughby resident for 25 years, noise has gone up with the development behind us. And certainly some of that is expected, but the noise is only going to increase all the more. So my big concern is what happens if they're wrong about visibility? Where do we go? What's our remedy? What do we do?
Thank you.
Jack Mark Donald.
Good evening. Jack MacDonald here. I've been living in Stewart for 50 years. I was a developer. I was a builder here. I've come before you all for project approvals in the past.
I happen to have bought a house in Willoughby. I happen to live on 14. The back of my house backs up to commercial land. That's the way it was when I bought it. That's why I expected to stay. I've been there 24 years now, going on 25. It's a fabulous community. I was there before the auto dealerships were built. I was there when Advantage Ford built their facility, and they did a good job of buffering it. I didn't have any problem with the commercial development at 26-foot height. Granted, there'd be some noises, but we dealt with those too. That wouldn't be that much of a problem. My big issue is this is a rezoning request. And as such, if they had developed it commercially, Mr. Murugado, who's got a good reputation, I have, all the accolades to him, nothing against him. He's doing a great businessman. He made a ton of money, and he wants to spend some of it here. That's great. And he wants more dealerships to sell more expensive cars. Fantastic. Nice to have it. I think the front part of the project is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Let him develop his car deal. That's his basic business. But if you look at the 35 acres that he was dealing with, 13 of them, I believe, my numbers might be a little bit skewed, but I think 13 acres has already been developed. Now he wants to add that to the other 20 acres and get densities based upon something that's already been built. I don't think that's right. I think you can twist things and attorneys can make things work. Land planners, I've known Mike Houston for many years. It's a neat idea. However, we're only dealing with if you take the 13 acres out, it leaves about 20 acres. If you use 12 acres for the front new dealerships, that leaves 10 acres left for these apartments. That equates to 25 units per acre. Never would Stewart allow 25 units per acre, and that's really where we are. We're cramming 10 pounds of garbage into a 5-pound bag. I think it's way too dense. I think it needs to be knocked down. I think he's gonna make his money on the cars, God bless him. Drop it down to 2-story buildings, and I think you get no argument. Keep them down below 26 feet. He can make his money on his cars, and they'll do a fine project. It might be 125 units or 150 units. I've built 150 unit projects that were very successful. And I think it needs to be really carefully watched. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Heidi Alderman.
Hi there, I'm Heidi Alderman. I'm also a resident of Willoughby, and I live actually across the street from the residents that are on number 14. And I have a couple of concerns. So I share Mr. Weber's concern about the noise, because we can hear the trains even across the street from a 14. We can hear Pomeroy, we can hear traffic, we can hear motorcycles, we can hear trucks. So concerned about the noise. I mean, secondly, Willoughby is a beautiful little oasis, and when you think about the development that would be on the east side, now, then you've got Costco coming and opening up, really concerned about the traffic, all around us, I mean, getting in and out of Willoughby, the traffic on Route 1, people making U-turns, accidents, and things like that. And the question that also comes to my mind, and I think this is maybe a question for you guys to think about, is have we done studies about, do we really need high-density apartments? Because we all know, we've seen them going up all over the place here in Stewart. Do we need more? What is the demand, the supply versus the demand? So I think that is sort of a question in my mind that I think needs to be answered. But, you know, I reiterate what the others have said as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no more.
You have no more, okay.
Fantastic. Do we have any other questions? And then we'll let them, if they want to make any rebuttals.
My last question was for staff.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and ask any questions that we have for staff?
So normally, and I know I asked Chris this in an email, normally you make a staff recommendation. And on this one, there is no staff recommendation. So, and I know you said it was because you weren't involved in this from the beginning, but I'm assuming lots of projects come before us that the current staff has not been involved in since the beginning. So what caused you not to make a recommendation for this one?
Thank you. So, again, staff was not involved originally, but we did look at this project, and one of the things that staff does do is go through the policies. We just did not feel as comfortable making decisions with this particular project, just because of the magnitude. So we did go through all the policies. They meet a lot of the policies. They met the zoning requirements. So they do abide by a lot of the policies. So that's why staff was wanting to request the Planning Commission to provide a staff recommendation to the board, a board recommendation.
So, okay, so I guess I'm kind of confused based on what she said. Because you say they abide by a lot of policies, so it would seem then that you would say the recommendation is to approve, but you did not make recommendation.
Right.
Why?
So what we made a recommendation is that they do meet the policies, and that was one of the requirements. And we did go through all the policies, and they have met the requirements.
But yet still no recommendation to approve.
That is correct.
And Mr. Mortel is not here, because I was going to ask him historically, since he's been in for many, many years, you've been here for many, many years, has staff ever not made a recommendation? Not to my knowledge.
I guess, and my other thought, and again, I'm new, I'm sorry, I ask a lot of questions. But one of my other questions is that we're making a land use change. I know we're saying zoning change, we're making a land use change. And again, just like in 2012, when this was done, that it didn't happen. Now, I know everybody's going to say, we want this to happen, we're going to move forward, but economies change, presidents change, lots of things change. And so if this expires again, this land usage will stay with this property unless they come before the commission. So somebody buys this, and now they're saying, oh, we're doing 10 per unit, but the neighborhood special district allows up to 15. There's room for more, so to speak, if the next iteration comes forward, because this land usage will stay with the property. So if Mr. Morgado and, I'm sorry, Jay, I know, Jay stood out because you said there were two of you, but, if they don't move forward with this project, so we're changing a land usage. And I guess my other question too was, we had talked about that we need more housing. There's been a lot of housing, and it seems to me also that the community kind of voted out most of our commissioners who are voting for more housing. We had a big change on the county and a big change in the city. So do we need more housing? Is there, and even the jobs that these are creating, I believe our county per capita income is about $83,000. So at $70-something thousand, this is below our median income. So we're not really attracting high-income jobs, and we're adding more housing when the community has I think that's what we're supposed to do, is be community representatives, and the community has spoken pretty strongly that we don't want more apartments and more housing.
Mr. Mortel is not here, is he? Because he was, and I'm very troubled by a precedent that when there has never been staff not making a recommendation, that all of a sudden we're going to start doing that now, and that is a problem.
So there was a previous presentation that staff provided in 2024, and we did not provide a staff recommendation. I don't know the name of the project, but we did not provide a staff recommendation. It was Clarity Point, actually.
It was where?
Clarity Point. It was the
I must not
rehab.
have been here for that meeting.
It was the rehab.
It was my first meeting.
Yes.
The detox center proposed on Indian Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that as well.
Okay.
May I speak?
I'm
Chair?
new, so I wasn't sure how often it happened or if
Okay,
it
so
was
then,
usual.
that actually I find troubling now even more, because now there's two presentations where staff hasn't made a recommendation, and that is supposed to be what their job is, from my understanding. is we rely on them to make recommendations as the experts in the field. So I'm finding it now troubling that there would now be yet another project that doesn't have staff recommendation.
But I will say on the flip side, I think the staff's goal should be to, it either meets the requirements, it doesn't meet the requirements. It's up to this board to speak to what the community wants, and then the commission to speak to what they believe they were voted in to do. But the staff is really, I mean, I know they call it a recommendation, but it seems to me, if you approve this, it will meet the code. If you don't approve these changes, it won't meet the code. So I know we call it an approval, but I've also been told it's really not an approval. So I guess.
Well, and I guess that, but as you said, I feel like when staff gives a recommendation, it's staff saying this meets.
If you give the changes.
If you give the changes, this will meet all the codes. And so that's what I've always known it to be. And if we don't have one on projects, then that means somewhere there's leaky language, and that's troubling.
So if you read the staff recommendation, you can see that we did identify that they met all the requirements for the
Okay.
petition. It is spelled out in the staff recommendation on the board.
Okay, then okay, then you did make a recommendation.
We stated that the application meets the requirements.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any other comment?
I guess I just want to follow up with the fact that, you know, what happens if Mr. Morgado goes away, Jay goes away? That, on every project we've done, that scenario could happen. We have to take what the applicant is providing, and in this case, I think it's a pretty solid applicant, and weigh that into the criteria.
And I would agree on that. I guess I'm just saying we're changing land usage, and that to, you know, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts every time we change a land usage and, you know, approve 400, you know, 300 more apartments, 200 more apartments, 100 more like, it's just death by and that's what's been happening. And with the land usage change, it's staying, like zoning, you know, or with the CPUD changes, that will have to come before the board again, but the land usage will stick with it.
If I may be heard, Chair, just to keep in mind, and you guys are talking, there is a future land use change, which is the comprehensive plan, and then you have an amendment to the commercial PUD. So they're not rezoning, and the commercial CPUD is a custom zoning on that property. They're not seeking to rezone and change that. They're just amending the PUD to add some of the stuff that they want to do. But coming back over to the comprehensive plan, the change, they're wanting to go from commercial. Now, think of the future land uses are broad terms: commercial, multifamily, residential, and then this is special neighborhood district. There are some benefits and negatives, I guess you could, depending on what side you're looking at. I think Board Member Peterson, you mentioned that there's a difference in density. Under commercial, it's up to 10 units per acre, and then under a special neighborhood district, it goes up to 15 units per acre. Now, there is a difference, though. They have 10 units by right under the code on a commercial future land use, but under special neighborhood district, they have to have a PUD. You can't do straight zoning. So no matter what you do in the future on special neighborhood district, they have to have a PUD. That means anytime they change something, they got to come back before you and the commission. But someone in the future could take a commercial future land use and change the PUD and just go straight zoning. And then they don't have to come before the board. They can, as long as they meet the standard code, they can do that. So there's.
But they'd have to change out of the CPUD to do that. So they'd still
But
have
they
to
could
come
say-
before the board to ask for
Right,
that change.
and they could say, we just want to go back to straight zoning.
But, yeah,
And they don't
it'd
have
still
to.
be changed.
Okay.
So
All right.
I don't think that was expressed, I thought I mentioned that
Okay.
there's kind of pros and cons to each. So-
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion? Because I'd like us to go ahead and not drag the meeting out in any too much longer. So can we go ahead and but we have to do two separate motions.
I think the applicant wanted to.
Okay,
something
can
real
we,
quick. I
but can
took
we
his
make
time.
it quick?
No, I'm just going to
Okay.
reinforce what the city attorney just said. Land use is legislative. It is as flexible as anything you want to do. It is not, when we swore, we were not swearing about land use. So when staff makes a decision on land use, recommendation, it's just looking at the policies of the comp plan. City attorney is right on the money. This PUD sat on this thing when it first got annexed in 1998, and that PUD stays there, and that's where the control comes from. He's exactly right. You are not by right getting 15 units to the acre when you change over to special district. You still have to go through this PUD. You still have to meet the standards. We are committed to it. And as Terry McCarthy, our attorney, said, all these things have timeframes as well. So when we do this, we have to do this within a certain timeframe. That 2012 has long disappeared. Kind of. It gets referenced here, but nobody's done anything in 12, 13 years.
Sir, hold on. We have to, okay, please make it very short.
Well, promises never go away, okay? So no matter what Mike said, promises don't go away. Unfortunately, I think this project has become all about Mr. Morgado. We aren't talking land use planning, now we're talking about Mr. Morgado, okay? And he's done a wonderful job, but he can do that in the front. He's not a good neighbor to us when what is happening in the back, and I think you need to take that into consideration.
All right, thank you. We've heard your concerns, and we appreciate that. Okay, would anybody like to make a motion first on action item 2, which is regarding the land use amendment?
I make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Second. Do we have any discussion?
Any public comment? No public comment.
No public, okay.
Vice Chair Peterson?
No.
Chair Lorraine?
Yes.
Board Member Strom?
Yes.
Board Member Vogel?
Yes.
And Board Member Bromfield?
Okay.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion on item number 3?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Would anybody like to second?
I'll second.
Would we like discussion?
Does anybody want to make any recommendations to the board, though, based on number 2, as far as the buildings, the setbacks, the buffers?
I would like to make 2 recommendations. Number 1, I would like you to go back and meet with Willoughby once again. While I appreciate that you have done a lot, I feel like there are still concerns, and I would like to have those thought out again, number 1. Number 2, I can respect the elevation very much of the car dealership and the commercial. I think that's spot on. I do not respect the elevation rendering as is. I would like to see something that a little bit more coastal and fitting into the local landscape. Anybody else like to make any recommendations to go with number 2?
Yeah, I recommend
number
that
3.
It's a great project. It's very well thought out. It's very well done. I'm a big fan of mixed use. I feel like in this project, the residential is overshadowing the rest of the project. In the commercial, the residential is a little out of scale. I know there's a lot of numbers that come into play with that. I'm not on your side of it, I get that, but I think the scale of the residential could be brought down to make Willoughby happy and make everybody happy in the whole project. I think it is feasible.
Any other comments?
I agree.
Okay, please roll call. And could you read back out what the motion is and make sure that we have annotated the items that we recommended? Yes.
To be technical, Mr. Strom, you'd ask him if you wanted to
Oh,
amend his
okay.
motion to add the condition.
Would you like to amend your motion? Thank you.
First of all, I can't amend my motion to reduce it to 26 feet, if that's what you want me to reduce it to. But I will go with a recommendation to meet with Willoughby again and to relook the elevation and make it look more coastal.
Okay.
Do you amend your second, Board Member Bromfield?
I agree.
Okay. So the motion was made by Board Member Strom, seconded by Board Member Bromfield, and it was to go ahead and meet with the Willoughby neighbors and make it more coastal and more fitting. Those were the recommendations.
To add to his original
Motion.
recommendation for approval, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Board Member Vogel?
No.
Vice Chair Peterson?
No.
Chair Lorraine?
Yes.
Board Member Strom?
Yes.
And Board Member Bromfield?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
Okay, do we have any other staff update?
Not at this time, thank you.
This meeting is adjourned.